Welcome to Happy to See Me. I'm Erika Casupanan. Now, when people talk to me about Survivor, often the question I get asked is, what was the deal with you and Deshawn? So I thought for my first interview of this podcast, why not bring in my favorite frenemy himself? And we get into it. We talk about the ups and downs in our relationship. We talk about the edit and moments that we wish made the show from our Lulu days. And he answers the question, why was he so obsessed with me? I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much to Deshawn for coming on the podcast, because we also talk about why he wasn't doing other podcasts after the show. Let's get into it. Hope you enjoy it. Deshawn, thank you for being the first guest on my podcast. When I thought, who do I need to talk to? Obviously, it had to be my number one frenemy from Survivor 41.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. Like, first of all, shouts out to you for this. This is really dope. But also, like, just for thinking of me for doing this. So, like, yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to go. Let's chat it up. You know, I'm sure this is what the people want to see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. I actually get so many questions from people about you. So many people wonder, okay, is Deshawn actually like that? Or I also get, how are you friends with Deshawn? I feel like our relationship is so misunderstood.
Wait, what does like that mean?
I'm sure you know. There were people who would talk to me and be like, this guy who's trying to be so slick around you, trying to throw you under the bus, what's the deal with him? Yeah. Why was he like that? So you know what? Let's start there, Deshawn. I have to ask.
Let's jump right in.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
How could I not be? Look at you, Erika. I mean, it's the purple hair, it's the style, it's the way you know. Okay, seriously, I actually don't think I've ever addressed this like publicly. So I'm going to try to actually say this, because I was thinking about this actually when I was considering doing the podcast, and I'm like, I don't think I've said this out loud. So let me try to explain it in layman's terms. Okay. So we met, right, on the beach the first day, and I felt like when I met you, like, you were somebody who I would be friends with, like, in real life. Like, the conversation was easy. We chatted up. It was all good. But the only other issue for me was the strategic side, where I didn't feel like we had a great strategic relationship. And I didn't know at the time, like, that was your gameplay. Like, that's what you came in to do. So, like, when I would strategize, I would feel like, okay, I literally love this person. Like, she's great. So that's where you get the great moments for us. And then on the other side, there was, okay, I'm strategizing, but I don't really feel like it's being reciprocated. So now I don't know if I can trust her strategically. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, she's great, but I don't know where we stand in the game. And so it ends up looking absolutely crazy for me and for you and for the fans, and probably for editors, because they don't know what's what with us, like, you know? So that's really what it was. I love Erika to death. For everybody out there, we're great. We're fine on a personal level. Even, you know, strategically, I completely respect everything and how she played the game, but I just didn't know that at the time. And now I can look back and be like, damn, Deshawn, you were a fool for your decision. So yes, I do love Erika, guys.
To be fair, I mean, you were on to something, because I did end up with the best case scenario at the end of the season. So you were on to something. I remember waking up on day 26, you and I at the end of that roller coaster relationship in the game thinking, how are they going to show this relationship on TV? And the answer is they didn't.
I just did it, you know? No. Not at all, actually. Which is so crazy, because it's like we were so connected. Like every step of the way, like our games are so intertwined, but like they just chose not to. And I was thinking about that too. It's just like, I know that the editor's job is never to tell my story or Erika's story or Xander's or whoever's, but it's just like, damn, they ain't show none of it. Like, where's the happy medium here? You know what I'm saying? And I do kind of wish when I watch back that it didn't just look like I truth bombed you and that was the extent of our relationship, because clearly it's deeper than that. And we get to show people that today. So it's all good.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. I feel like with our relationship, because I felt the same thing. I felt like, especially on that first night that we went to bed at Lulu, and I think it was also the first time I ever rolled my eyes at you, because we're all getting ready to go to bed.
Not in the dark. Okay, let's hear it. I didn't know this.
No, I've told you this. We're all getting ready. We're going to lay in the dirt and we're going to sleep. I'm snuggled up in this nice spot, and you say to me, I'm afraid to sleep at the end of the shelter. Can we switch spots? Oh, and I'm thinking, this guy, okay. In your defense, though. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, in your defense, you did actually help me out later that night, though, when I got something stuck in my eye.
Let's talk about it. But no, seriously, though, that was, like, very real. I was so scared to sleep at the end because, like, I had read that there were, like, rats on the island and, like, we seen bugs clearly. So it's very wimpy that I made you sleep on the end, but I was so serious. There was no strategy involved at all. But yeah, we did. We got to connect at the end. I think you got like some wood in your eye, and I like tried to blow it out and pour some water on it, and it was completely ineffective, but it bonded us, you know?
Exactly. And I think that that's why the first conversation we really had when we were there, we talked about our lives, we talked about our family and all of that. And then, of course, the game and the roller coaster of the game happened. And from my perspective, I always loved you as a person. But then also when it came to strategizing, I just never felt like I could trust you. I just always felt like even though I loved you and I wanted to work with you, I just always felt like I am not his number one interest. So I have to make sure that I have a bit of a guard up here. So I feel like with us, there was always this thing where it was almost like sometimes we were like magnets who were coming together, and sometimes we were like the opposite ends of the magnets, and we just couldn't with each other.
Yeah. I think that that's fair. But you know what's also like true to point out, like, even though we were sometimes opposite of each other, I feel like throughout the entire game, up until that truth bomb, which is heinous, we were still trying to have each other's best interests. Like, even if you go back and you pick out certain things, or like what happened at different tribals, or like whatever happened with strategy up until that point, like, even if we weren't together, we still had each other's interests, and Heather as well. So it's like, I think that the edit just should have showed it a little bit more, because we might not have been like this, but we always had each other in mind, I feel like. So I think it's fitting that we made it to the end together. I just wish that, you know, things had worked out differently. So
I'm good with how they worked out. I don't know about you, but I'm cool with it.
That was Akko Taco. Not like I wanted to beat you. Actually, I would have wanted to beat you. Let's be real. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? I just wish they would have showed it more. They showed our dynamic more, for sure.
100%.
Made us more human.
Mm-hmm. And I think after the show, I know that we had an up and down relationship after the show too. And you know that there was a time where sometimes I would want to be friends with you, and sometimes I would pull away and I wouldn't really want to talk to you. And that's because I was still processing things that happened in the game, including the truth bomb. But I think that, well, one, having our relationship start from a real place where we really bonded about our families and our lives and where we came from. So I always knew that deep down you are a good person. And I think the other thing is, once you started to sense that there was something going on with our relationship, I'm always going to appreciate the way that you reached out to me and you said, okay, I can feel like there's something here. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's have that uncomfortable conversation. And you were willing to have the conversation with me, and you never invalidated anything that I said. You listened to me. You took accountability where you needed to. And I realized, okay, if this person is willing to go there with me and be honest and have this conversation with me, I will always have a place in my heart for him. I will always have love for you. So I feel like that really solidified for me that for better or for worse, we are stuck with each other. We're going to be friends, and I will always love you.
Yes. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you, Erika, for saying that.
Speaking of emotions, you were often labeled as an emotional player. So what was that like watching the show and seeing everybody talk about you like that?
I mean, I kind of was expecting it as far as the watch back, because when we were out there, that's what was actually happening. But it was like very nuanced, like why and where the emotions came from. And I don't think the full story was ever fully out there, but I think watching it back, it taught me a lot. And I think in the moment, it's tough when you're in the line of fire, when people are looking at you critically, to say like, okay, this is going to be a positive. But for me, it ended up actually really being positive, because in Survivor, it's really weird that it like mirrored my real life in a way. One of the biggest lessons I learned from Survivor is like this idea of self-sabotage, right? Like, if you look at my Survivor experience, I came in and I could have sprinted, hopefully, through the finish line, but somehow I got there on my hands and knees doing everybody dirty and blowing up all these different games and just doing all this different stuff. And when I look at my life, like, even though I've been successful in certain areas of my life, like, that oftentimes happens. Like, in a lot of my career, choices with clinics and schools and stuff like that, my relationships, and that persists. And so when I got a chance to watch that part of myself on TV in HD, and you can't escape it, and people are telling you, you can either decide to retreat from that, or you can look at it for what it is and say, okay, is this something that's applicable for my life? And so when I watched it, it was tough at first. When I got a chance to really process what I watched, it was like, okay, this is something that I can fix now, today. It gave me the opportunity to see that about myself. And I don't really, I still struggle with it sometimes from time to time, but the idea of self-sabotage is so far removed from my life now, because because of Survivor, because I saw myself do that. And so I think it was a net positive. It's really weird to say that, but I think it was a net positive to see myself in that light. But it was tough in the moment for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's a process. I feel like even now I still process things that happened from that whole experience. I think it's going to stay with us for a long time.
Yeah.
And when you were on the show, you talked a lot about your family. I know that you had the 3Ds from your dad, the 3 values. What was it like watching the show with your family, and how were they responding to everything?
So it was actually really fun. And when I like look back in retrospect, like that was the best part of Survivor, I think, is watching the show. And I wish that I had been able to like hone in on that. Like my mom asking all those questions in the days leading up to the episode about what was going to happen and what she should expect. And I'm like, Mom, I literally don't know. Because like, we don't know what this is going to show, you know? Or my dad just being like, very like humbly excited. Like he didn't want to show too much excitement, but I knew he was super proud. And like just being with them on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. to just like watch them watch me live this experience and ask their questions. And they were just so excited. Like it was so palpable. And I think about my life. And like I said, like obviously I think I've done things like generationally that a lot of people in my family didn't get the chance to do, and they've been proud of that stuff for sure. But I think that Survivor is something special in that, like, they never would have imagined that I would be on the syndicated show and be able to, you know, play the game and make it to the end and see me in that light. And my mom recently passed. She passed in May. And I remember having a conversation with my dad a few months after, and he was like telling me, like, I always knew my mom was proud of me for doing it, but like I remember him just telling me like the gravity of how proud she was. Like she would talk about it apparently like all the time, like when they were like in bed, when they were waking up, like she was just so proud. And so it's amazing for me to have an experience like that with her right before she passed, like literally months before she passed, because it's like I got a chance to share that with her, you know. So it was good. It was definitely good. And afterwards, like I said, I got to learn the impact in a more like meaningful way when my mom passed. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, though, I do wish I would have like focused in on that good part of watching the show with my family. Sometimes I was too busy looking at what other people were saying instead of like enjoying that. So future Survivor players, just enjoy the moment with your family. It's a really cool experience if you do that.
Well, I'm sorry about your mom, and I know how much you talked about her and how you felt like she was really a leader in your family and how much impact she had on you. So I'm so sorry about that loss. I'm so happy that she was able to watch this and celebrate this with you before unfortunately she passed. And I'm so happy that you were able to have those memories and those moments with her. And when you were talking about how it's easy to get distracted in terms of what other people are saying, I totally hear you, because I feel like I would watch the show, I'd get so nervous, and I'd think, oh, what are my friends and family going to say? And then you realize you could do nothing. You could belly flop on TV and your parents are going to be like, oh my God, that's my baby. Literally. I am so proud of them. How did being on the show affect or change the relationship you had with your friends and family and people who are already in your life?
I don't know that it did too much. I mean, luckily, and I guess this is a blessing because of the way that my Survivor journey was and the way I was shown being kind of emotional and people thinking like that was me. The blessing is in my real life is that like obviously people know that like that's not me. Like there's more depth to who I am. And so when I think about my family, that aspect didn't change at all. They were super proud of the moment. It was great. They're still super proud of me, but it hasn't really changed or affected my dynamic with them. And then as far as my friends go, same thing. Like they know who I am. They were like rowdy for me. Of course, they say, "Oh, you know, we wish you would have won," and stuff. It's like, bro, no, come on, it wasn't gonna happen. It wasn't the crush. But like outside of that, they'll see me as a human being, like as the person that I am. And so I'm glad for that. And I think they kept me grounded in those times where it was a little bit more tough because you can either receive that, you know, input that you're getting from, you know, castmates or fans or whoever it is about these negative qualities of you, or you can listen to this kind of reinforcement that is coming from the people that you know and that love you and that know your character and that know your heart. And so I'm glad I was able to lean on that. And I think the best thing about our relationship is that they didn't change from the show, because like if they had, that would have sucked. Probably would have lost all of my people. So we were solid enough to not, you know, change up. And it was just good. It was just a fun experience for everyone to watch, I think, more so than anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's the thing. I think that it's almost like the experience takes over your whole life, right? From the first time casting calls you to probably even now, so much of your life has Survivor on it, or there's at least for us, there was at least 2 years where Survivor was such a big focus. And then you realize with so many people in your life, oh, they're just watching the show and you're on it and it's cool. And they're just like having a great time watching you. And it kind of puts things into perspective.
Yeah, no, for sure. And to the point of like it being like such a long part of your life. Like, and there's people in our cast, like, I think maybe Heather was in the process even longer than us. Like, imagine like being in a survivor mindset for like 4 years straight. You know what I'm saying? And then like coming out of it, like that's why I have grace for all of our castmates and everybody who goes through the process, because it's just like, it's tough when you come out of it and everybody lost in some way, right? Like either you didn't get the edit you wanted or you lost the game or you felt like they edited you wrong or whatever. So everybody came up a little short, and that's always going to be a little bit saddening for somebody who wanted this for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. And so I just feel for everybody who had gone through those stages, and I hope everybody can heal from it and realize, as you said, like the fans are just like, they just want a good show. They're just watching a good show. Don't put so much pressure on it or yourself or how you do in the game. Like just enjoy it while you can. So yeah, I definitely hear you. The process is really long, and especially for us with COVID, that was nuts. But I definitely understand what you're saying for sure.
So when it came, because I know that you've been so good at being able to heal and come from that, and I know that when the show was airing, it's tough. It's tough getting all of that input. I remember at one time you and I were chatting and you said to me, your stands do not like me. And I said, okay, let me know if I ever need to call off the stands. And by the way, nobody be mean to Deshawn. We're cool. It was just a game. Even my mom has forgiven him. We're cool.
Literally, I met her parents, guys. They're awesome, by the way. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. You're the guest. You talk all about meeting my parents, and my parents love that they met you.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like we just connected. Like, I don't know, maybe it was just me in my head, but I feel like I'm in there. So yeah, those are my guys and gals. I love them, and I love her entire family and her friends. We met in Toronto in July for her birthday, so it's just been really great to meet her people.
No, actually, so fun fact about that, because before you met my parents, I taught Deshawn this. What is it? So I taught Deshawn, it's this Filipino custom called mano. So when you are a younger person meeting with an elder, you have to take their hand and put their hand on your forehead, and it's just kind of like a sign of respect. So I said to him, do this to my family. They would love this. Do this. So Deshawn comes up. He manos my mom and my dad. They're all bashful. They're like, no, you don't need to do this. It's fine. It's fine. Deshawn, I went home for the holidays and they told everybody, Deshawn came to Canada and he did the mano. It was great. It was great. So both my mom and my dad, they loved it.
I literally love that. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing that with me.
Okay.
I never would have thought that was good.
So speaking of these cultural customs and everything, I know that you and I had conversations while we were there. Some made TV, some were secret scenes, and we talked a lot about representation. So what was it like being on the season of Survivor that was the first one after this new CBS diversity mandate?
Oh, man. It was rough. You know why I think it was so rough was because, like, when I applied for Survivor, it was kind of like on a whim in a way. It was back in 2019. Like, I just applied because I thought, I think I could be good at this. I'd be a fun character. Nothing too serious. Like, I didn't want to go in there and represent, like, this huge group, right? And then you go through casting, and my casting was over in January 2020, and then COVID hits. And then we have the year that we had in 2020 where we lost, we saw George Floyd being murdered and Breonna Taylor being murdered, and there was uproar in the country, in the community, and I've experienced that personally on my own silently before, like with Philando Castile being murdered when I was like 19, and I remember being in my room just like bawling, crying, and feeling like I have to cry to myself because the world wouldn't understand, or even like maybe some people close to me wouldn't understand that like I'm a man, but I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this emotion. And the difference in 2020 was that like the entire world saw it, and everybody came out in numbers, and I think it was a beautiful show of unity, but it also did put, I think, a lot of pressure. I won't speak for anybody else in the cast, but for me personally, and I'm sure for more people, because it's like you want to represent something positive now. Like we just came out of that really negative experience in 2020, and you want to make it positive from this diversity mandate. And as well, like I was following the Black Survivor Alliance during our off time. Like I wasn't in the meetings with them, obviously, but damn near. Like, I mean, I was literally listening to every podcast. Like, there's such amazing people to take the step and to really risk their livelihood with, the network and everybody to say, this is what we experience. This is what we want to change for people in the future. So, and I was listening to that and I'm just like, I can't not make these people proud. Like we just had this year, these people are just sticking their necks out for us. Amazing players from past Survivor seasons. I feel like I have to make them proud. I think the problem was though, I think a lot of us came into it, a lot of the black players, I'll speak for some of the black players came in thinking that the way to make them proud was to work together. And I don't think that that's necessarily what their goal was. I think they wanted us to have an even playing field. I think they wanted equality for us so that we could have equal edits and equal resources after the show and have equal representation in front of and behind the camera. They didn't necessarily need us to play together. Like that's not how they needed us to honor what they were doing. And we just didn't understand that. And that's what makes it tough being the first season back from that, because like, who's going to tell us that? Like how are we supposed to know that? We can only go based off of what our heart is saying. And so, it was tough. And I think it was tough on all of us. And I respect everybody for, playing the game the way that they did. And sometimes I think about like, well, what if I had played in Survivor 43, how different that would have been, or 44, just a few seasons after, where you saw, things kind of mellow out and how they're supposed to play out and how the game is supposed to evolve now that we have these new changes. It would have been so different. Or even if I played again, like things would be so different, but it's just like, how was I supposed to know that in 2021 off the heels of that? You know what I'm saying? Another thing I don't know if people know is when we were in COVID, the George Floyd trial was like one of the only things that was on TV. So it's like, we're seeing that. Yeah, you remember, yeah, it's one of the only channels that we had. So
there was like 4 channels and that was it.
4 channels, yes. And that was one of them. So of course we're going to watch that regardless if there was 4 or 400, but that's in our minds. And it's like, we're bringing all that stuff into the game. And so I think that's sometimes understated when it comes to the Black Alliance. I think even sometimes we don't give each other, as like, when I say each other, I mean like me, Shan, I think Danny's pretty good at that. And even maybe so a little bit Liana, like we don't sometimes give each other enough grace, or at least we didn't back then, to say like, that was tough. Like that was a lot of stuff to have to navigate. And yeah, it probably didn't work out the way that we wanted it to, but like we, at least we tried. Like we were in a rut of a position. Like we didn't really know what to do. So I'm proud of us for the way that we played it, but it definitely made it more difficult. And then to also add the layers of other cultural minorities like you, and we had those conversations out there, and you were bringing that baggage into the game, and Nasir, I'm sure, brought that baggage into the game, and all these different people. So it's unique. We were the guinea pig season, so to speak. And so we were kind of trying to lay the foundation. And I'm proud of us for what we did. You know what I'm saying? I have to be proud of us for what we did.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we should all have compassion for ourselves and compassion for each other. I think especially with you and with that alliance. And I think that on any given season, I think that anybody who is part of any minority feels some level of responsibility to represent the community that they're part of. But I think that for your experience and for the timing that we had, it was unprecedented for you. So I think that you all did the best that you could with what you were going into the game with. So I think that everybody should have compassion for each other. I know that we also talked about when we were out there, and I believe this was a secret scene, we talked about you watching Black men on TV, and it was usually a very narrow depiction. How do you feel about how you were shown on TV, and what was the response to people from within your community?
What's interesting is, so like I said, when I was applying through Survivor, like when I first applied, I wasn't trying to like represent anything or do anything much, but I have to give credit to Survivor's casting team and like even the producers. Like by the end of the casting process, they had pretty much peeled every layer of me, like an onion, like down to the core, like literally, like what do you want to represent? Why is that important? Why do you choose the career you do? What's your mental state? How are you going to represent that? And I remember being in casting, and one of the things that I was really big on was making sure that I showed that Black men have a multitude of dimensions when it comes to the emotions that they're able to show, right? So a lot of times, like Black men are usually more serious or maybe more comical, and a little bit more stern, a little bit more hard exterior. And I made it very, very clear. I can remember this, saying like, I want to make sure that I don't, do that, because that's just not who I am. I want to show all of the colors of Black men. That's why I really appreciated Davey on season 37. And so it's interesting because I think maybe I didn't intend to do it the way I did it, but I think that is kind of what happened. Like I did show that like Black men have emotions. They cry very often. they can sometimes fly off the handle. They can sometimes show compassion, that they are multifaceted people. And I think I really do appreciate the editors too, because they could have buried me. They could have just shown my bad stuff, but they showed the other sides too. And that's really awesome. And so I think that the goal was met. In a way that maybe I just didn't anticipate. Like maybe I anticipated it being more of a positive, completely positive edit, and it wasn't that way. But that's also just not real. Like nobody's that positive. Nobody can hold that for their entire. Like we're human, and so I just honestly, when I look back, I just appreciate the way that I came off, because I came off human. I came off with the ability to still be able to grow, and like I can still go up. Like there's, I can only go up really from that, but I still showed the capacity to show some different emotions. So it didn't come out the way that I probably expected it to, but it came out, I think, the way that I think it needed to. So,
well, you're a complex character, and you're not just a TV character. You are also a complex person. And I think you were successful in showing that there are a range of emotions and that you're not afraid to feel them, and you're not afraid to celebrate them. And I think that that's also why you and I have been able to stay friends, because you're not afraid of the happy emotions and you're not afraid of the bad emotions. So when it comes to the show, is there anything that you wish aired, or is there any side of you that you wish made TV?
I mean, it's funny because when I think about Survivor, well, when I first thought about it after the show and after it aired, it was super hard for me to like categorize, was Survivor good or bad for me? Was it like red or green? Like, you know how in human minds we always want to say good or bad box. Like, would you do it again? Would you not do it again? And so whenever I thought about Survivor, like on the one hand, I had so much fun in that pre-merge, and it's just like, even if it was a lot of scheming and a lot of all that stuff, like there was a lot less of the personal stuff, and it was a lot of just strategy, and we had a lot of fun talks, and I had an amazing relationship with Heather. I wish that was shown more. Even the dynamic with like Heather and Sydney, or Sydney, and it's like it was so much to experience with us on our original tribe that didn't get shown. And then just outside of that, like I had a great dynamic with Jeff, and I feel like we were friends by the end of the thing, and I had great relationships with the film producers and stuff. So that was good on the one hand, but then on the other hand, like I said, the bad came when I was watching and hearing feedback, or from the fans or from the castmates. So it's like good or bad. I don't really know which one is which. I don't know which category to put this in until I arrived at the point that like the Survivor experience is the one that you had. Like I have to remember the friends that I made, which I'm friends with pretty much everybody from the cast. I have to remember the relationships I did have with like the producers, with Jeff, and with the show, and what that means to me, and what what it meant to my mom and to my family. Like that stuff is positive. So when you ask the question of is there anything I wish they could have shown, like no, not really, because it all kind of worked out in the end. So it's kind of like this idea that like, and I've been kind of like on my spiritual journey a little bit, trying to get closer. No, seriously, and it's kind of like I've been praying, and it's just like sometimes I think like why me, like why am I still in position, like why do I still have a family support, why do I still have friends support, a roof over my head, why am I still able to pursue this awesome career when I've effed up so many times, like I've done so much f ups, and it's just like why does God keep deciding that I'm enough? And I take that same approach when I watch Survivor. It's like that was enough, because that brought me to where I am. He put me in that situation. He gave it to me, and he displayed it exactly as it was, because it's going to take me to a whole new place that I don't even know where he's going to take me at. But it just makes me feel so like valued, but it's also just kind of like, why? Like, I don't know. So even with that situation with Survivor, it's like, why did that happen that way? Who knows? But I'm sure at the end of my lifetime, and when we're all rejoicing in heaven, we'll look down and be like, oh, that was the reason why that happened, and that happened, and that happened. And it was a beautiful, beautiful story. So, no, I think perfect the way that the story was told. I'm fine with the way that they told the story, for sure.
And like you said, you learned a lot about self-sabotage. And I think that perhaps it was painful at the time, or at least some elements were painful at the time to see, but being able to learn that about yourself, and then now you can take that and course correct, you can become a bigger and better version of yourself. Okay, so speaking of our time on Lulu, because I feel like it's so funny watching the little bit of Lulu screen time we had, because sometimes I feel like those 12 days that we lived together all mixed together in one day. We just had such a routine down, and it felt like we just all knew how to live. But by the end, we were like, oh, when are we going to start playing? A moment from Lulu that I remember, and that it came up in my mind the other day, and I had a good chuckle about it. It was after, or brother. It was during the first challenge, the whole Deshawn with another piece thing.
Oh my God.
Can you explain
I'm
what went down there?
Yes, yeah, of course. This was one of my favorite parts of Lulu, actually. Okay, so in the beginning, I think the first like 3 challenges, Erika and I were on every single puzzle together. And I'll just isolate that first puzzle, for example. I did absolutely nothing in the puzzle. Like, Erika was flying. She was putting pieces in, pieces in, pieces in. But every piece she would put in, Jeff was like on the other side. Like, he was cheering on yellow or green or whatever. And so when I'd have a piece that I know was about to go in the right place, I will wait until Jeff was right next to our podium, and I will place it so I can hear him say, Deshawn, with another piece. And then he turns around and Erika places like 20 and he says nothing. So in the edit, it actually sounds like I was doing stuff, but I promise you I probably placed about 5 total puzzle pieces across all 3 competitions. And Erika was she's doing her thing because she does puzzles and she doesn't care about the notoriety. In 2021, me is just like, I'm going to wait until Jeff sees me put this piece in. So he can make sure he vocalizes it and he makes me think. So that's just the funniest thing. This is the funniest story ever. We laughed about that for a lot of time.
We talked about that for a while. I feel like that kind of became the inside joke. Because there were some challenges where I would sit out with Heather and then it would become Deshawn with another ball, Deshawn with another piece, Deshawn with another whatever. It was just...
Yeah. And then one of the episodes, like, I actually did do something. It wasn't a puzzle, but it was like something. And it was like, oh, so now it kind of makes sense. Like, it all jives together. And my plan succeeded.
I know. Now you finally earned it. For me, I'm like...
earned the notoriety.
I'm just doing the puzzle and I'm like, okay.
It's because your big prize was coming at the end.
Yeah.
That's why.
Unless with I feel like with the edit, they added little voice clips after of Jeff acknowledging that I was doing the puzzle. I feel like once they saw the footage at the end and they realized this clown is just smiling at the camera the whole time. So thank you, editors, for that one.
Yeah, so that's great. That's a really funny story, actually. We have so many of those little funny stories from Lulu that I hope we hold on to forever, honestly. Can you believe that we went like that long without eating any proper food? Like, a strong, 12 days we didn't eat.
Yeah.
Like, real food. That's crazy.
Well, we did win those apples.
Apples? Yeah, a breadfruit?
No, we won a bowl of fruit.
Oh, we did. Hey, and we killed it in that one night, didn't we? We didn't save any, I don't think.
In Tree Mail, they tried to pull a fast one on us and make us think that we were going to swap. So then we were like, oh, we have to eat all this fruit that we won in the challenge. So we were all eating all these pears, all these apples. We don't even swap. And I remember coming back to camp thinking, all of this fiber, I am not okay. Another post-Survivor question for you. You didn't do a lot of the post-Survivor press. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, for sure. And it was very intentional. So it's actually, there's a lot of different reasons why, and they all come together. Y'all know I'm long-winded. So the first thing is, I took a year off of school, right? And, there's not a lot of room for, being in the Survivor community and then trying to be in medical school. I probably would have failed all my classes. So I had to make that a priority. The second thing, though, was that, our cast, and rightfully so, we were that first cast back. Everybody was excited. They were all, ready to go. And our cast was just, at each other's neck. It was people would say whatever they needed to say to make sure that they could justify their game, even if it meant, tearing somebody else down. And I just wasn't for it. It felt very much like a circus for me. And it was okay, if I just learned these lessons about myself, I just said I want to take these lessons with me, and I really do. How does this fit in with me going onto a podcast and tearing down anybody's game? You know what I'm saying? To try to build myself up. It just felt slightly cornball for me. It felt circusy. It felt like a cornball type of situation, and I just kind of wanted no parts of it. So that was the reason why I stayed off of podcasts initially. And I'm really glad that I did, because it gave me the room to do me and work through all that stuff. Because, all them conversations we had about what I was going through that semester, ain't no way I would have even been here today if I had kept myself in the Survivor world. So that was pretty much what it was. And sometimes that's another piece of advice for people who go on. Sometimes it's okay to remove yourself. You did your job. You went on the show. You did all your interviews. You did all the social media stuff. And if it gets toxic for you, it's okay to do your own thing over here. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be in it 24/7, especially if it feels like clownery. So I decided not to partake.
I think that's fair. And I agree with that advice. You do not have to do anything you don't want to do, despite what anybody else thinks or anyone else says. You have to look out for you. And I think that do you remember this moment? I know I'm adding on something else, but do you remember this moment when we had just done the final tribal council? There was that party on set where we met all of the crew, and then you, Xander, and I had to get on this boat to go back to Ponderosa, and we're with some of the production. And all three of us are very overwhelmed. All three of us cannot handle what has just happened. Something that stuck out to me is one of the members of production had said they were really impressed with how we were so kind to each other in the final tribal council. He said that normally at final tribal council, it's actually hours of the final three tearing each other down. But for the three of us, we were actually very respectful, and nobody was really saying anything negative about each other. I think we were all just trying to fight for our own games. And I wasn't trying to tear you down. I wasn't trying to tear Xander down. Like, let's all just speak for ourselves. So it felt really good to hear that. And I felt really proud. Maybe that didn't make good reality TV, but as a person, I felt really proud to know that that's how we conducted ourselves.
No, seriously, very much so. And I think it showed, like, it's just all in character, right? Like, it probably may not have been that way if different people were there, or maybe it would have been. But, like, I think, like, it's just in the character of the final three. Like, we're all pretty solid. So I'm very happy that was our experience. I'm very happy that we were able to do that and fight clean. You know what I'm saying? And the best person won. So, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to be dirty. If you're going to lose, you're going to lose. You don't have to pull out all the stops. Tell that to Final Six Deshawn, who dropped the truth bomb, okay?
Sometimes I hate that guy, but we all learned something from it and we all forgave each other, so it's fine.
Yeah. Love. It's all love.
So can you tell everybody what you've been up to since Survivor?
Yeah, like now or like since the moment it ended? How far back do we want to go?
Let's go on the journey.
All right, let's go on the journey. Let's do it. So when did it end? December 2021. So I go back to school after a year off from playing Survivor and doing all that stuff. And it was the toughest thing ever. Like, to go from Survivor to going right back into medical school was actually impossible. And Erika knows, like, we had multiple conversations where I was like, I really don't even know if this is like for me. Like, the year started off rough for sure. So there's that. And then, like, I had a lot of loss last year, so I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer. But I did have a lot of loss. Like, I lost my grandpa in March. I lost a cousin at the end of that month. And then my mom died in May. And then that was big. Like, if you ask me what's one thing in life you never want to have happen, is to lose your mom. Like, to lose my mom, she was literally everything. And so that was tough. But then it's like, now the school is calling you back to start the summer semester 2 weeks later. And it's like, I don't even know if I want to be here. And so I'm doing that because I know, like, my mom will want me to. And so I get back into the school in summer semester and I do that. And then now they want me to take medical boards, which is this huge test that I'm not in the mindset to take, obviously, after the few months that I had. And I ended up actually failing boards the first time I took it, which was like, it wasn't really too much of a shock because I knew what I had been through, but it was kind of like a turning point, if you will. And it's kind of weird that a negative turned into a positive, because after that, I would say, like, in August, September, around about summer, fall, there was like an energy shift. Like, I can't even explain it. And maybe that's where, like, my spiritual faith is coming from. But, like, everything just changed. And, like, I retook boards and I passed boards, and my family came out and they watched me get my white coat. And I took a trip to Panama, my first ever solo trip. And I, was more involved in, like, community. And I started to do clinics and meet with patients and, like, fell in love with my career and, passed all my classes, and I made it through, got to spend, holidays with my family, and they gave me so much energy and just strength. And then now I'm here and I'm, like, deep in clinic at this moment in time. I'm really deep in clinic and seeing patients, and I'm realizing, like, I cannot believe that at a time I thought this was not for me. Like, this is everything I thought it was going to be. And it's not even because, like, I have all this knowledge or expertise or whatever. It's literally just because of the people. Like, just being able to sit in a room and to talk to people who are 12 years old. I seen a patient today who was 12 years old. He had flat feet and plantar fasciitis, talking to him about his career dreams and his life aspirations. And then I saw a patient who was 76 who talked to me about, like, how I can get to his age and how to, it's just crazy. Like, the spectrum of people that you can talk to and meet and impact. And I'm learning that now. And I'm just so grateful that I did not quit. Like, that's another lesson from Survivor that I took to heart. Like, so many times in Survivor, I could have quit. Like, after the Black Lives exploded, you could have sent me home. I wouldn't have cared. Then the freaking do or die, send me home. I don't care. after the truth bomb, I'm not gonna win this game. Send me home. I don't care. The freaking fire making challenge, forget about it. Her flame was like Heather's flame was just freaking crazy, and I didn't quit. And so that was a lesson that I learned in the game. But it's like another lesson that applied to life. Like I was really struggling in my career. I was really struggling personally for a long time, but I just stuck it out. And now I'm in this place that's so positive and I'm so happy and I'm just so grateful. And so that's the message that I would send to anybody listening. Like it's tough, but it's not tough forever. It's never going to be tough forever. So just stick it out and your purpose will reveal itself. So that's where I am now. I'm just in clinic. I'm in classes. I'm about to graduate in about a year and be Dr. Radden. And I'm just chilling, you know?
I'm proud of you for sticking it out. I know that you went through a rough patch, but I'm proud of you for getting through that moment where there was so much friction, where it was hard. And people are going to be very grateful and very lucky to have you as their doctor in the future. I have no doubt. So we're going to wrap soon. I want to ask you a few quick questions. You can answer them as quickly or as slowly as you want to. I know that you were a big...
Am I ever quick, Erika? Never quick. Okay.
I mean, you were quick to throw me under the bus, but I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're friends.
Fair enough.
We're friends. We're cool. Okay. So I know you were a Big Brother fan before you were a Survivor fan. Would you rather come back and play on Survivor or be on Big Brother?
Okay, so now I have to tell the story because you brought it up.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna try to run through it. Okay, so I actually applied for Big Brother. So this is a whole story. Hold on, let me take it back. Okay, so in 2018, it's all going to come together. Just give me a second. Okay. In 2018, I finished the master's program, right? And I literally remember, just trust me, go with me on this journey. So in 2018, I finished this master's program and I'm working at Jamba Juice of all places. Like I'm making smoothies after having, you can still see me, right? Yeah. Okay. After having like just paid $50K for this degree. And I'm like, why am I here? But at this store, I meet this girl named Ashley, who's a rock star. She helped me in so many ways, but she was into the CBS shows. Now I've always been a big fan of reality TV. Like since the Real World days, that was like my show. I love the challenge. It's really awesome seeing like our Survivor people on the challenge and stuff. But like that was like my show since I was like 12. So like I didn't know CBS shows, but I'm here at this Jamba Juice. She's like, hey, if you like the challenge, you should watch Big Brother. This is Big Brother 20, I believe. This is like Swaggy and Bailey and Caitlyn and all of them, like a really eclectic cast. Love Caitlyn, by the way. And this is the first time I'm seeing like, oh, I feel like I can be on this show. Like, let me apply. So I applied for Big Brother 21 the next season. I make it through finals for Big Brother 21. And this was before the diversity initiative. So this is when there was only one black man who was getting cast. So I'm like, okay, I'm confident because I'm at finals and I'm like one of two black men. So I should be good. So I'm going through. And a month before they're going to send the cast out to film, I get a text message of all mediums that says, hey, we went with somebody else. And that somebody else ended up being, his name's David. He was on 21 and he's on the challenge. And he's a great guy. But I mean, I was like, damn, that sucks. So I was pissed, and that's part of the reason that kind of lit my fire to apply for Survivor. So to answer your question, I've already been through the process for Big Brother, and I've been through the process for Survivor. And I personally just feel like Survivor production and casting team, they handle their people with such care, and they really care about the stories that are being told. Like, it's a really holistic show, even if it doesn't always come out that way for some people's edits. Like, I feel like they truly are good people. Like, and I know that. So if you had Big Brother here and Survivor here, I'm taking Survivor every single time. And plus, Big Brother's too long. Like, that's a really long time to be second house. Sorry to be long-winded, but that's the story of Big Brother.
No, I remember actually also on day 26, we woke up and I remember saying to you, Deshawn, maybe one day we can actually work together on Winners at War 2 after you win Second Chances 2. And you were like, yeah. And then after you're like, hey, wait.
Yes, that was like our ongoing joke for sure. Mm-hmm. And then when we were leaving the Fijian airport, we were walking together, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to win Second Chances too if we're gonna play again." So yeah, there we go. You were a prophetess. I see you.
There you go. We'll wait for you for Second Chances too. What's a piece of advice you would give to a future reality TV contestant?
Ooh, you know what? It's going to be tough for people to maybe take this advice, but if you can, really do take it. And I would just say, know yourself before you're going on any reality television show. And that sounds really cliche, but like really have a strong sense of self, have a strong support system around you. Don't be, I won't put an age limit on it, but just make sure you're solid in who you are, because you'll get in there and the experience might be fun, but then you'll have these outside people who don't know you from like a can of paint who have their opinions, and the game can get hectic and your castmates can have opinions and it can start to alter your mind. Like I was 25 years old when I played, and I feel like that's old enough, but that's, there's no age limit on knowing yourself, and I wasn't quite there yet. And so it can mess with you if you start to believe opinions of other people instead of like knowing firmly who you are. So I would say don't even apply until you're like, I'm unshakable. My foundation is unshakable. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. Don't even go on there. And then at that point, you go on there and you just have the best time of your life. And, you're going to be the best character you can be because you're not trying to appease people anyway. So it's like, just wait. Like, make sure you're good and firm in who you are, or as good as you can be before you go, because it can be trials and tribulations when it comes to other people's opinions of you. And you have to kind of be able to weed that out. So just wait. If you don't feel like you're fully mentally there with yourself, just wait.
I agree. If you can afford to, start going to therapy now. It will save you in the long run if you know yourself before you go into reality TV. What's a piece of advice for future medical students?
Ooh, I would say shadow as much as you can. Because I think a lot of the times that I felt really down on myself, or like, is this the thing for me? It's because I had these long stints of like didactic courses, sitting in classroom, taking tests, and that's really mundane and it can get really boring and you can forget why you're in the field. So like as much as you can, get in the clinic. Like when I tell y'all, when I finally got in the clinic regularly, like I never questioned it ever again. So just be as solid in your clinical experience before you get to medical school. And then if you apply and you get in, even when you're in medical school and you haven't started clinics yet, go shadow somebody, because it can get really, really easy to forget why you're here. But you're here for a purpose. You apply for a purpose. Everybody has that drive to do it, but it is easy to forget about it when you're so kind of over the same monotony of the day-to-day classroom stuff. So shadow a lot, be in your community a lot, talk to people, because at the end of the day, our job is an art of communication with people. So you just want to be able to hone in on that skill so you don't forget that, and why you're doing it in the first place. It's really easy to forget, for sure.
So true. I feel like that's connected to your reality TV advice. Know who you are. Know why you're doing things. Okay, the last one is a tough one.
Oh, okay.
What's better, McCain Deep and Delicious Cake or All Dressed Chips?
Oh, McCain Deep and Delicious Cakes. It's not even close. And listen, okay. So when we were on the island, I have to tell the story. We were on the island. Erika was our only source of Canada. Like she was the person, she would buy her through extension through her. We knew what Canada was like. So she would gas up these cakes. Like she was like, oh, they're so good. Like I'm like, they can't be that good. So it's like, I don't believe you. When I tell y'all I went to Canada and I had the Deep and Delicious cake and it literally changed my life. Like it melted into my mouth and it was cold too. Y'all know when the cake is like cold and then it like, the warmth of your, this is going to get really detailed, but the warmth of your like saliva just like melts it. And then it just got into each crevice of my mouth. And then I just didn't want it to end. It was such a great experience. And she didn't lie about that. However, the all dressed chips, I feel like were like, they're average and no slight to any Canadians. I feel like they're okay. Like they're decent chips. I would maybe not grab them first if they were in America, but they were good. You know what I'm saying? They were good, but solid. Deep and Delicious cake, and the one that you sent me the other day, I need that in my life like yesterday. So I can't wait to come back to Canada for sure.
I'm going to ignore what you said about the chips, but there is nothing like the image in my mind when I went to you and Heather's Airbnb when you both came to visit in Toronto, which was amazing. Thanks for coming. And just on the counter, there are two totally mangled Deep and Delicious cakes. It was like you ate them from the edge, and then there was just pieces of the inside left.
Because we were trying to keep it organized, we wanted to really respect the cake because it was really artfully designed and baked. So thank you to whoever baked that. McCain, I guess.
Shout out to McCain.
Yeah, McCain.
Deshawn, thank you. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, people can follow me on Instagram, I guess. Just at Deshawn Radden. I think that's the only social media I have right now. And I'm trying to post more. I'm trying to be more active. Like one of my intentions for the year is to like tap in with my friends, my family more, like be more active in my communities. And I feel like Instagram is a community for me. So like I should be on there and people should get to know me. And I'm like ready to do that. So if you follow me now, you won't be just following a ghost. Like I will be posting a lot more. So do that at Deshawn Radden on Instagram.
There you go, people. If you follow Deshawn, you will get content.
Content is coming. It is.
Deshawn, thank you so much for joining today. It was so nice to catch up. It was so nice to be able to talk a bit about our roller coaster relationship I love you, and I wish you all of the best.
I love you back, and congrats on this show. All the best to you.